I, 28F, come from a wealthy family. My parents built a successful tech company from the ground up, and we've lived a privileged life in a large house in an upscale neighborhood. I've always been aware of how fortunate we are, and I've tried to use our resources to help others when I can. I met my fiancé, Jake, 30M, 3 years ago at a charity gala our family was hosting for a local children's hospital. He was working as a waiter for the catering company. I noticed him immediately. He stood out with his striking blue eyes, chiseled jawline, and a smile that lit up the room. Throughout the evening, I kept finding excuses to talk to him. He was funny, kind, and seemed genuinely interested in me as a person, not just because of my family's status. After the event, I took a chance and asked him out for coffee. He hesitated at first, admitting he couldn't afford to take me anywhere nice. I assured him I'd be happy with a simple walk in the park. On our first date, Jake opened up about his background. He was an orphan who had bounced around foster homes as a kid. He'd had a rough time and struggled financially, but was determined to make something of himself. At the time, he was working multiple part-time jobs while trying to figure out his career path. I fell for Jake hard and fast. He was so different from the guys I usually dated. Humble, hardworking, and genuinely good-hearted. We started seeing each other regularly. Despite our different backgrounds, we connected on a deep level. Jake made me laugh like no one else could, and he encouraged me to pursue my own passions beyond just working for my family's company. When I introduced Jake to my family, they were hesitant at first. My parents were concerned about his lack of education and career prospects. They worried he might be using me for money or status. But Jake's warm personality and sense of humor soon won them over. He was always respectful and eager to help out around the house. My parents saw how happy he made me and came to accept our relationship, even offering to help Jake explore career opportunities. The only person who never warmed up to Jake was my younger sister, Mia, 18F. From the moment she met him, she seemed to dislike him strongly. She would barely look at him or speak to him. If Jake tried to engage her in conversation, she'd give one-word answers and walk away. Mia and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's 10 years younger than me, and by the time she was old enough for us to really connect, I was already off at college. Mia was a surprise baby for my parents, and she grew up almost like an only child. She's always been strong-willed and a bit rebellious, pushing back against our parents' expectations and the pressure of growing up in our family's shadow. As a teenager, Mia started acting out more. She'd skip school, sneak out to parties, and argue constantly with our parents. I tried to be there for her, but our age gap and my busy life made it difficult. I think Mia resented me for being the perfect older sister, successful in school, working in the family business, and now in a serious relationship. When Jake entered the picture, Mia's attitude towards me worsened. I tried talking to her about it multiple times, but she'd just shrug and say she didn't like him. When I pressed for a reason, she'd say she just got a bad vibe from him. I wondered if she was jealous of the attention Jake was getting from our family, or if she was worried about how his presence would change our family. This tension went on for over 2 years. Jake and I got engaged 6 months ago, and Mia's attitude didn't change. She refused to participate in any of the engagement celebrations. My parents and I were frustrated but didn't know what else to do. We hoped that as Mia matured, she'd come around. Jake was hurt by Mia's behavior but tried not to let it bother him. He always spoke kindly about her and never pushed her to interact with him. About a month ago, I noticed a sudden shift in Mia's attitude towards Jake. Out of nowhere, she started being friendly with him. She'd greet him warmly when he came over and engage him in conversation. At first, I was thrilled. I thought Mia had finally come around and was making an effort for my sake. But then I started noticing some odd things. Mia was only friendly with Jake when he was physically present. If I brought him up in conversation when he wasn't around, her face would darken and she'd change the subject. A few times I caught her glaring at photos of Jake and me with what looked like hatred in her eyes. One evening, I overheard Mia talking to Jake in the kitchen. She was laughing at his jokes and asking him questions about his life. Her voice had a flirtatious edge that made me uncomfortable. When I entered the room, Mia's behavior instantly changed. She made an excuse and left quickly. I'm completely confused by Mia's behavior. On the surface, it seems like she's trying to make amends and accept Jake. But something about it feels off to me. The contrast between how she acts when he's around versus when he's not is disturbing. I can't help but wonder if she's developed feelings for Jake and is struggling to deal with them. I've tried talking to Mia about it, but she brushes me off. She says she's just trying to be nicer to Jake for my sake, and that I should be happy about it. When I mention the way she acts when he's not around, she accuses me of imagining things and being paranoid. I don't know what to think. Part of me wonders if I'm overreacting and should just be grateful that Mia is making an effort with Jake. Maybe this is her way of maturing and trying to mend our relationship. But my gut tells me something isn't right. I can't shake the feeling that Mia's new friendly persona around Jake is an act, and that she's hiding something. I've considered talking to Jake about it, but I'm not sure what to say. He's so happy that Mia finally seems to like him. I don't want to ruin that or make him feel uncomfortable around her if I'm wrong about this. Jake has always been understanding about Mia's past behavior, and I worry that bringing up my suspicions might make him think I don't trust him. I've also thought about bringing it up with my parents, but I'm not sure they'd believe me. They're just relieved the tension with Mia seems to be resolved, and probably don't want to rock the boat. Plus, they've always had a hard time dealing with Mia's mood swings and rebellious nature. I'm afraid they might dismiss my concerns as another example of Mia being difficult. The whole situation is creating a lot of stress for me. I feel like I'm constantly on edge around Mia and Jake, watching for any signs of what's really going on. It's casting a shadow over what should be a happy time as we plan our wedding. I find myself analyzing every interaction between them, looking for clues about Mia's true feelings or intentions. I keep going back and forth on what to do. Should I trust my instincts and try to figure out what's really going on with Mia? Or am I overreacting to normal sibling dynamics and creating problems where there aren't any? Am I letting my complicated history with Mia cloud my judgment? I love Jake and want to marry him, but family is also extremely important to me. The thought of there being some sort of issue between my sister and my future husband is really upsetting. I want everyone to genuinely get along and be happy. I've always hoped that Jake could be a positive influence in Mia's life, maybe even helping to bridge the gap between her and our parents. At the same time, I can't help but worry that by ignoring my suspicions, I might be missing something important. What if Mia knows something about Jake that I don't? What if her initial dislike of him was based on something real that I've overlooked? Or what if she's developed inappropriate feelings for him and is struggling to cope with them? I feel stuck between loyalty to my sister and loyalty to my fiancé. I don't want to accuse either of them of anything without proof, but I also don't want to be naive if there really is something going on. I worry that if I don't address this now, it could lead to bigger problems down the line, potentially even jeopardizing my relationship with Jake or my sister. The situation has made me reflect on my relationship with Mia over the years. I wonder if I could have done more to be there for her as she was growing up. Maybe if we had a stronger bond, she would feel comfortable talking to me about whatever is really going on. I feel guilty for not being able to protect her from the pressures of our family and for possibly contributing to her feelings of inadequacy. I've also started to question my relationship with Jake. Not because I doubt his feelings for me, but because I wonder if I rushed into things without fully considering how it would affect my family dynamics. Jake and I come from such different worlds, and while that's part of what I love about him, I'm realizing it might create more complications than I initially thought. As my wedding day approaches, I find myself torn between excitement for my future with Jake and anxiety about this unresolved tension with Mia. I want to start my married life on a positive note, with full support from my family. But I also don't want to sweep my concerns under the rug just to keep the peace. So, Reddit AITA for being suspicious of my sister's sudden change in behavior towards my fiancé? Should I pursue this further or let it go? Am I overreacting to normal family dynamics, or is my intuition picking up on something real? What would you do in my situation? How can I address this without potentially damaging my relationships with either Jake or Mia? Update. It's been a month since my last post, and I'm still reeling from everything that's happened. I never could have imagined how this situation would unfold, but I feel I owe it to this community to share the truth. Last week, Jake was supposed to pick me up from my parents' house for a dinner date. He was running late, so I called to check on him. After we finished talking, Jake apparently forgot to end the call. I was about to hang up when I heard Mia's voice in the background. They seemed to be in Jake's car together. At first, I was confused. Why would Mia be with Jake? But as I listened, I felt my blood run cold. Jake was threatening Mia, saying he would expose her OnlyFans account to our family if she didn't do what he wanted. Mia was crying, begging him to delete the videos he had downloaded. I was in shock. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. Jake, the man I thought I knew and loved, was blackmailing my little sister. And Mia had an OnlyFans account? It was all too much to process. I listened for a few more minutes, my hands shaking. Jake's voice was cold and cruel. Nothing like the warm, kind man I thought I knew. Mia sounded terrified and defeated. It was clear this wasn't the first time they'd had this conversation. Eventually, I couldn't bear to hear any more. I hung up the phone and sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Then I texted Jake, telling him I wasn't feeling well and needed to cancel our plans. He replied that he'd come over to check on me. When Jake arrived, I could barely look at him. I mumbled something about needing rest and practically pushed him out the door. As soon as he left, I broke down crying. How could I have been so blind? About an hour later, Mia came home. I took a deep breath and told her I knew everything. I had overheard her conversation with Jake in the car. Mia's face went pale and she started sobbing. Through her tears, Mia told me the whole story. Jake had been sexually harassing her since the day they met. He would make inappropriate comments when no one else was around, try to touch her and corner her in rooms. Mia said she had tried to tell me early on, but I had brushed off her concerns. She felt no one would believe her over Jake, who had charmed everyone else in the family. 2 years ago, when Mia was 16, she had made an OnlyFans account on an impulse. She posted 3 videos before realizing it was a mistake and tried to delete the account. She thought that was the end of it. But somehow, Jake had found out about the account. He downloaded the videos and had been using them to blackmail Mia for months. Jake forced Mia to act friendly towards him in front of the family, threatening to show everyone the videos if she didn't comply. That explained the sudden change in her behavior that I had noticed. Mia said she hated every moment of pretending to like Jake, but she was terrified of the videos being exposed. I felt sick to my stomach as I listened to Mia's story. I hugged her tightly and apologized over and over for not believing her, for not seeing what was happening right under my nose. I promised her that I would make things right. The next day, I met Jake at a coffee shop. I confronted him with everything I knew. At first, he tried to deny it, but when he realized I had overheard his conversation with Mia, his demeanor changed completely. The mask of the kind, gentle man I thought I knew fell away, revealing a cold, calculating person I didn't recognize. Jake tried to justify his actions, saying Mia had led him on and that she deserved what was happening to her. He even had the audacity to suggest that we could work things out if I just ignored the situation with Mia. I was disgusted. I ended our engagement on the spot and told him I never wanted to see him again. But I knew that wasn't enough. Jake needed to face consequences for his actions. With Mia's permission, I went to the police and reported Jake for sexual harassment and blackmail of a minor. We provided them with all the evidence we had, including recordings of Jake's threats that Mia had secretly made. The police took our report seriously and launched an investigation. They found more evidence on Jake's devices, including the videos he had downloaded from Mia's old OnlyFans account. Jake was arrested and is now facing multiple charges. As for Mia's OnlyFans videos, we worked with a lawyer to have them completely removed from the internet. The lawyer also helped us ensure that Mia wouldn't face any legal consequences for creating the account when she was underage, as she had been manipulated and blackmailed. The past few weeks have been incredibly difficult for our family. My parents were shocked and heartbroken when they learned the truth about Jake. They've been supportive of Mia and me, but I know they feel guilty for not seeing through Jake's facade. Mia is in therapy now, working through the trauma of Jake's harassment and blackmail. It's a long road, but she's already showing signs of returning to her old self, the strong, spirited girl I remember from before all this happened. As for me, I'm still processing everything. I feel foolish for not seeing Jake's true nature, for dismissing Mia's initial dislike of him. I'm angry at Jake for betraying my trust and hurting my sister, but mostly, I'm relieved that the truth came out before I married him. This experience has brought Mia and me closer together. We're talking more openly now, rebuilding the trust that was damaged. I've promised her that I will always believe her and stand by her side no matter what. I've also been doing a lot of reflection on my own behavior and assumptions. I realized how quick I was to dismiss Mia's concerns because they didn't fit with my perception of Jake. I'm working on being a better listener and not jumping to conclusions. To the Reddit community, thank you for your support on my original post. Your comments made me more aware of the red flags in the situation, even if I didn't fully understand them at the time. I hope my story can serve as a warning to others to trust their instincts and listen to their loved ones, even when it's difficult. For those who might be in a similar situation, please don't be afraid to speak up. There are people and resources available to help. And if someone confides in you about harassment or abuse, believe them. Your support could make all the difference. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I'm grateful that Mia is safe now and that Jake can't hurt anyone else. We're taking things one day at a time, focusing on healing and rebuilding our family bonds. Thank you for letting me share this update. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's the importance of open communication and trusting your instincts. Never ignore that nagging feeling that something isn't right, even if you can't immediately explain why.